All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Saturday. I am excited to introduce Adrienne. We're going to be talking a little bit today about her journey, and I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about you.
Yeah, so my name's Adrienne. I'm 38. I was originally born in Pennsylvania, Bucks County, so like about 40 minutes northeast of Philadelphia, I guess. But I was always into sports growing up, mainly horseback riding and playing soccer. My mom tried ballet, and that lasted one season. And my dad's like, no, she should be in roller derby. And dad was right. But yeah, so for pretty much my whole growing up, yeah, I was riding horses, playing soccer. In high school, I had no idea what scholarships meant, and I discovered speed skating and gave up soccer to start speed skating. So that was kind of silly on my part, but it was a fun few years of that until I moved to Florida for college, and I kind of never returned other than to visit. But yeah, so I started competing in 2019. It was originally a bucket list because I always struggled with food and eating issues, especially in high school and towards the end of high school. And I was just like, you know what? I wanted to look like, of course, a bikini girl, but I never thought I'd be able to do the diet. So eventually I was like, you know what? I just have to do it one time. I just need to prove to myself that I can do it, can get on stage, and then we'll just go from there. And so I did. But then it was funny because at my first show, I told my coach at the time, and I was like, this really isn't for me. And like I had a wig on, which was a whole other story, but it wasn't her fault. But I had this black wig. It was super heavy. It was like Barbie hair. I mean, it looked cool, but it didn't feel like me. Plus, my first time with stage makeup, I was like, I look like a clown. Like, what is going on? And but then I don't know, after I decided, I was like, that wasn't so bad. But then of course, I had a horrible rebound. And then the next 2 years or so, I did another show and then had a horrible rebound and then did the other show, trying to correct those bad rebounds. So I wasn't competing for the right reasons. And so about, yeah, 3.5 years ago, I was like, I need a change. And I saw, the product that Team Elite was, pushing out. And then one of my friends from my old team, um, she was coached by you. And I was like, who's your new coach? Like, you look amazing. She goes, oh, it's Sam from Team Elite. And I was like, okay. So I signed up and here we are. I could say that the last 3.5 years have been my serious years of really getting things together, not giving up the coach in improvement season. And I'm just like, I just have to have Sam by my side all the time. You're my comfort blanket.
Oh, I love to hear about the first show experiences. It's so funny because like my first show experience was so weird also. Was like I got talked into doing it by one of the bodybuilders at the gym and he coached me into it and it was like traditional hardcore bodybuilder prep. Where
Right,
at that point it was like I don't know any better. So if I eat, tilapia and asparagus for 6 weeks, I guess this is what people do
right.
but went into it like not having any idea about posing or stage presence or makeup or any of that. Like my suit cut it was terrible. No one told me until like the day before I compete that you actually had to pose on stage. So that's why, I my first stage pictures, I look like this
Oh,
what I was doing. So it's always fun for me to hear like the first show experience, especially, because for you it was 2019, you said?
yeah.
Yeah. So it was a much different experience then. Bikini was a much different division then. Everything was like a little bit more dialed back, and I feel like the sport has come such a long way, and you, of course, grew along with that really nicely. But it's funny to look back on those first experiences and be like, oh my God, I can't believe
Cringe.
that.
Yeah.
So when we first started working together, it was, were you just coming off a show when we started working together?
I think I was probably, it was within a year.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't like fresh because I know I did another horrible rebound on my own and then I finally was like, all right, this is enough. I'm done doing this.
Hmm.
So then yeah, I kind of just decided I was like, I need to start doing things the right way.
So with your previous coach, you didn't ever experience like a post-show reverse, and was that by your choice that you're just like, "Yeah, I'm done."
Yeah, so she had given me a reverse plan, but I was doing, I guess, like what I'd pay for like 6 months or whatever, and then once it would run out, it would run out, and I would just let it go, and oh, I'll be fine. Famous
Yeah.
last words. So yeah, I feel bad because she never really got a chance to actually reverse me. I was one of those that would fall and ghost, and that was the end of that. And then I'd call her back when it was like, all right, I can't take this weight anymore. Let's prep.
Mm.
So, yeah, prepping for all the wrong reasons. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I can empathize with that because my first 2 years competing were exactly the same. It was like I rebounded really bad, and I was like, well, I'm just going to start a prep again because
Right.
I just want to feel comfortable in my body, and not knowing any better, it seems like the most logical thing to do at that point in time, right?
Yep.
Then you learn to appreciate like the work that comes both in season and off season. And let's maybe just start with like our first show experience together because that was 2021 or early
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
2021, and then I think I competed just before 20. It was like December or November
Yeah.
before 22. Yeah.
Okay.
I always do those end of the year shows for whatever reason.
Yeah, why not? You're like a glutton for punishment. Like I'm just gonna diet through Thanksgiving. Who needs Thanksgiving?
Everyone's like, aren't there other shows you could pick? I'm like, there are, but for some reason I always pick ones right around the holidays for whatever reason. But
Yeah, it's all right. Seems the most convenient.
right.
So our first show is yeah, I think it was late in the year 2021. I think it was like the Atlantic coast or was
Atlantic
that
Coast,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Yep.
then you ended up doing that same show again in 2022.
Um, no, I did that show
Oh,
once.
okay.
Yeah, it was just right before 2022. But
Okay.
yeah, so that was our first show, and then right after that was when my hormones went bananas and had to get off the
Uh,
birth control. After 16 years, it decided it no longer wanted to be a part of my life.
yeah. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit? Because that I get a lot of questions about birth control.
Yeah, so wow. So, I mean, it was fine until all of a sudden it wasn't fine. So, I don't know if it was a combination of prep and just being on it for too long, on birth control for too long, that my body just went crazy all of a sudden. And I was like, I would just start crying randomly, and I'd be like sitting at my desk at work, nothing's wrong. And then I'm like bawling and telling my boss, I'm like, I'm fine, I promise. I don't know what's wrong, but I'm fine, I'm okay. And yeah, I would just was having these crazy like night sweats and just all kinds of weird things that were going on. So then when I got my blood work done because I was like something's not right. And when I was going over it with the doctor, she said, a similar thing happened to her after like 11 years on birth control. And I was on the pill, so the not like the injectable or the ring or anything, but yeah, and I told her, I was like, it's weird because I've been fine and all of a sudden I'm not. So she's like, well, I suggest you get off of it. And I was like, well, I've been wanting to get off of it anyway because I'm like, I hear it, it holds back muscle gaining possibilities. So I'm like, nobody wants to do that. But so yeah, so I just stopped it, and like she said, she goes within like 4 weeks, she goes, you'll notice a huge improvement. And from there I just started feeling so much better. And then I was, of course, afraid to go near my boyfriend. So then I got my tubes tied. Because I don't want any babies. Love babies, just don't want any. But yeah, so then we started, I think we had to take, I forget if it was like 3 weeks or 6 weeks. I don't know. We had to take some time to recover because it was like an abdominal sort of surgery, but I
I
don't
think it
remember
was
how
closer
big.
to 6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds more accurate. Yeah. And yeah, so once that was all over with, then I feel like we had a little lull of just normalcy, and then my brain and my neck and my back and everything just went poof. So that started the last year of debauchery with random health episodes. I don't
Hmm.
really want to say issues because it's they can't really find anything wrong, which is good. But yeah, that
But
was
frustrating. It's frustrating when you don't have like a cause yet.
oh my God, yeah. I was actually going through some notes yesterday just to like refresh my memory on this past year, and it's every single month there was something that had to get checked or scanned or it's just been crazy. And I was like looking at I printed it out just in case because I was like, oh my God, like from January to literally to right before our show this year, I'm like
Yeah.
still getting scans. But we're making do.
Well, that it did create some interesting, I don't want to say like hurdles because I feel like you mitigate it very well. And it was a little bit, I had to help you kind of change your mindset with training, which is
Hmm.
understandable. And I know for most people, like you train because you want to go hard, right? You like the heavy compounds, you like to push yourself to your limits, and that's I feel like pretty standard in the sport. But there comes a time and a place, and this is one of those times when you have injuries like you do, where you're not able to do compounds because of your back and you're not able to do overhead compounds because of your shoulder. And we had to really make and like fine tune your
Yeah.
training. But at the same time, you made incredible gains in your muscularity. Like throughout all of that, and like maybe just tell us a little bit about that because I know mentally that was a challenge for you when we started training that way.
Yeah, because yeah, at first for sure it was, like kick me while I'm down kind of thing. But then it was like a girl I used to ride bicycles with, she right before my neck surgery or right after, she told me, she goes, just focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. And that just really was like one of those comments that somebody said years ago that's really stuck. So then it worked, with coordinating with you. And I was just like, all right, well, what can I do? And then you just led the way with alternatives. And I just embraced them. I'm like, you know what? Well, I can't do this, but I can still do that. So screw it. I'm going to do that instead. And then just really embraced being able to do something. Because
Hmm.
knowing like when I had the neck surgery, I was out for, I couldn't pick up my cat for 3 months. So I was like, all right, so a body weight squat, I'll do a body weight squat. It's better than no squat.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think it for you, it also opened up another avenue where because you hadn't trained that way before, you learned how to be more intentional with your
Yes.
movements. And like, I think ultimately it ended up with you being able to just get better engagement as a
Yeah.
whole because you were
Yeah.
focused on what you said, just being
Exactly.
able to do something, you know?
Exactly. And it was good. It put me like back to the basics because I was definitely getting to a place where I was ego lifting probably more than I should have.
We all go
And
there
just
sometimes.
like I just want to lift heavy weights, like
Yeah,
say
yeah.
my joints and my body are like, no, we don't want to do
Yeah.
that. So yeah, but it was like, and then yeah, I even remember telling you like after this first couple workouts, I'm like, Sam, I'm so sore, but like I really don't feel like I did anything. But just really focusing on that mind muscle connection has been, yeah, like almost I feel like it's been game changing for me in a way. I'm like super happy that all these little health issues came to be because it forced me to go back to the basics and really, appreciate and learn the process the way I, do things the way I should be doing them. I guess.
Well, maybe just relearn it because
Yeah.
I think it's things that we all know when we start,
Right.
but then it gets kind of diluted by all the influencer crap you see on Instagram and all these ideas that like if you're not training with weight where you're training to failure every set, then it's impossible to grow muscle. And then like you are actually living proof. And I'll patch in a couple pictures that show the transformation and just how much muscle you put on. Um,
Right.
during that time that like you are living proof that you don't actually have to live lifts that way to be productive or to build muscle, that it is more about being intentional, and a lot
Yeah.
of it is about what you're putting into your body food wise too.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was, I mean, that's another avenue that we explored pretty deeply. Do you mind if we talk about that a little bit?
Oh,
Okay, because that's another one that we also entailed the help of Celeste.
yes.
And I'm gonna have to get her on one of these because I feel like I talk about her a lot.
She's like our little
Yeah.
god in the sport.
Yeah, but she's, she has been such an amazing resource in tool.
Yeah.
And what I know I told you, and I tell all my girls that I recommend to her, I'm like, I would love if I were the end all, that I had all of the answers, but she can do like she has, mindset tools and things that I just don't know because it's outside of my scope of practice. So I love that I have her in my toolbox, and she is a phenomenal human.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk about, I mean, you start wherever you want to, and how it led to us entailing her assistance.
Right. Ooh. Well, I guess we can just throw it all out there. Why not? Um, so going back to high school when I had the issues around food pretty much started, I oh, this is crazy, but when I had a girl in one of my classes who disappeared for months and then came back and she was anorexic and like I just remember seeing her and like the way she like this is so silly, but the way she crossed her legs in class and she could like cross her legs and they crossed and like I was like I don't know, I went to cross my legs and I'm like, oh, my legs like sticking up over here and I'm like, ooh, I'm like maybe my legs should go like that too. And it just like escalated into this like journey of, oh, I need to look like her. And I could never do the not eating thing. So I ended up going, the binge route and then eventually the purge route. And it escalated from there. And then right after we graduated, my best friend passed away on a motorcycle. And then that just like I think set off like the rest of me just coping. Um, we're trying to cope, but through food and binging, and it was a rough couple years. So, but I never got help. And going into college, like my roommates would always like have the counselors send me letters like, "Oh, you should come talk to us." And I'm like, "No, no, no, I'm fine. Obviously not fine, but I was." And so yeah, so then I was always fixated on weighing 115 pounds for some reason, because I'm pretty sure there was a magazine in high school at some point where Lindsay Lohan, when she got like super skinny, and she was like 115 pounds. So I was like, I think that's the magic number. That's where I need to be. So for like years, I was fixated on that number. And anyway, so for my first prep with you, it was funny because we got below that number and I'm like, ew. I'm like, oh, I wanted to be 115 forever. And I'm like, I don't look so good right now. I'm really skinny. And I was like, my butt looks like a pancake because we were, obviously we weren't pumped up or anything yet,
Yeah.
going through the process. But yeah, so then it was like kind of enlightening. I'm like, why was I so obsessed with this number? Like it means nothing. And so anyway, so that was an amazing prep, and I thought that was my best prep until this prep, but we can get into that later. But so after that prep, I did good for like the first few months, and then I don't know what happened. I think I just had a few too many tastes of sugar, and it just like rapid fire down the wrong direction and even went back to that place of binge and purge. And that was when I broke down one night and I was like, oh my God, I'm like, Sam's gonna fire me. Like she's gonna kick me off the team. And I was so afraid to tell you, but I was like, I told myself, I was like, you know what, Adrienne, this stops here. Like, we're not going back to high school. We're not going back to college. Like, you're an adult now. Get the help you need. So I signed up with Celeste. I even signed up with another food therapist. I was working really with both of them. And that definitely helped, change things around, especially with Celeste's program and, all the check marks of thinking, the feelings before you eat something or before you make a decision around eating something, like what is it going to do for my body? How is it going to make me feel? Am I bored? Am I, just those kind of things. So it really got me thinking each time what the purpose of like a meal was. So it took a while, but we got out of that, thank God. And
Part
this
of
last,
that also, though, like you need to give yourself some credit because I mean, obviously Celeste gets the credit for a lot of that, but a lot of it was you also because you are very honest about these kinds of things. Like, I know you were always very honest with me about what was going on when it came to the issues with like the binging and purging. And I remember when that first came out, and you're like, I haven't done this since high school, or I haven't done this since college, and I don't know what's going on. And then when entailing Celeste, I know that you had some very deep conversations with her as well. So a lot of that is a reflection of what you are willing to share. And I think that that needs to be recognized because like no one can help if we're not
right?
outright with what's going on, internally.
Yeah,
So there's like for me, and I tell people I can only help you with as much information as you give me. So if
right.
you're not giving me any information, I mean, I'll help you still to the best of my ability. But when it comes to something like that, it is hard to be honest. And
Hmm.
when you talk about it with me and with Celeste, it creates the space where we can be more helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like terrified to tell you. I'm like, Sam's gonna be so upset. But I'm
Yeah.
so glad I did.
I'm
Sam
so
was
glad
not
you did
upset.
too.
Anyone struggling, Sam was not upset, I promise.
I
Happy I
don't think
told
I've
her.
ever been upset with,
Be honest.
yeah, I don't think there's ever been a point with like anyone that I worked with where I was upset or like angry.
Right.
I very much appreciate when anybody feels comfortable enough to be honest with me because it's like it's a big thing. It's a big thing to trust someone on that level.
Right.
So I'm always grateful for that. And it was a lot of it does it does take a lot of communication to get through something like that.
Yeah.
And being like, well, I need help here, like Celeste says, and I know we kind of worked together with that on how to make your menu optimal so that it was sustainable and you were able to follow it,
Yeah.
week in, week out. And a lot of that were, Celeste tips and encouraging you to be open about what you needed, right?
Definitely takes a village sometimes.
Absolutely does. It absolutely does. Yeah. But it did ultimately lead us into a place where like this was the best prep you've ever had. And
Yeah.
like by far and wide. And I'll let you go into that because your messages, your responses back to me at our check-ins always make me so happy. Or what like you leave in the comments and the notes for me. I I don't think I can say it with words like how much I love to hear those things just because I it makes me so happy to see you thriving.
Right. Oh, good. Because I feel like I'm like a broken tape recorder every week. I'm like, Sam, it doesn't even feel like we're prepping. We have how long to go? But we're almost done and we haven't even started yet. The not weighing my lettuce has really been a game changer. That is like, I know it sounds so silly, but it was that I feel like that was the first gate that opened. It was like, no, please don't weigh your lettuce. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I was like weighing lettuce, I was weighing my rice cakes, and just like getting rid of some of that rigidity was just like I don't know, like I feel like that was like where it all started. And from then on, I just everything I was just like not stressing. I'm like, if something's a gram or two over or under, I'm like, it's fine. It is what it is. It's close enough. I mean, if it was like 5 to 10 grams, obviously I would fix it. But just having that little bit of flexibility and not being so rigid and so crazy. And like it used to be, if I was prepping and like my boyfriend got too many flats on his bicycle and like needed a ride, I would like, what do you mean? You should have more tubes. Like, don't bother me. I'm at the gym. And this time around, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can do this later. I'll come get you. Don't worry about it. Just like everything was just smooth and yeah. And then we took out like the artificial was another really big game changer
Mhm.
because I know we did it for like the inflammation to see if it would help my back, but it definitely helped way more than just my back.
Yeah.
And because last prep, I know I was going through like a bottle of Walden Farms pancake syrup probably a week, if not every few days, like licking my plate after like crazy person. And then we took out, just did a low FODMAP even before we started prepping, and it just like paved the way for like super smooth prep. And I'm still blown away. Like now we're reversing, and I'm like. Well, I don't even feel like we ever prepped, so why are we even reversing? Like nothing's changing. I just have a little bit more rice now, and my avocado is back.
Yay. I mean,
And
I
it's
love
like,
that.
yeah, and like I go through the grocery store and I'm just like bananas, apples, berries. Like I'm not even like looking at the things that I used to look at and be like salivating over the holiday cookies or the ice cream. I mean, I make my protein ice cream like every night. And oh my God, last night I put bananas in my chocolate protein ice cream. It was so good. And it's like, yeah, like those are the cravings I have. Like I just never want this to change. I'm just so happy.
Well, I know, like you said, originally we went into it as a means to help reduce inflammation because of your arthritis, right? Because I won't get too into it, but essentially, like anything that ends in itis means that it's an inflammatory response, right? So we can
Mm,
keep those things at bay. I mean, not to say that we're going to make it go away, but we
right.
can keep the pain from flaring and stuff by really being more conscious about what you're eating for food. And I don't think anything really changed significantly, but I know from personal experience that in removing a lot of the artificial sweeteners and flavors, and yeah, like I still have an energy drink a day, and I'll still do like my element tea that I'm obsessed with. But when I took out the Walden Farm syrups was a big one for me too, the sugar-free
Mhm.
syrups. When I removed those things and all the prep hacks and stuff, like my cravings went away. I
Right?
stopped
Yeah.
having cravings. And I won't say that's true for everybody, but I know I know it made a big difference for you too. And I
Yeah.
love that because
It
it
is.
was I was initially worried, like, if we go into something like low FODMAP, is that going to trigger like the
Right.
restricted mindset again? And
Mhm.
it never did. You like
No.
never expressed that you had those kinds of feelings or
Yeah.
that you were struggling with the menu. And even up until I think until like 2 weeks out, you still had a cheat meal.
Yes,
It
I forgot
was
to
like
mention that. That was liberating as well. Because I think I asked you before
the
prep.
foods that you were like it was because of the foods that you were choosing on a daily basis that we were able to do that. And
Right.
even when you went out to have your cheat meal, it was like Mediterranean food or like a steak, or I think maybe a burger once in a while.
Yeah, my staples are like the Peruvian chicken salad that I always
Oh
get, or a burger, or the Brazilian steakhouse that I like to coin as the protein palace.
yes,
But
yes,
and then like if my boyfriend like wanted crumble after, like I could have a bite and allow myself a bite or a piece and like be fine with it. And like I wouldn't dwell on it because I knew that if I just trusted myself, okay, you can have this bite without eating the whole box.
yeah,
And then it would almost be like a little challenge just to prove to myself that yes, I can in fact have a bite. And it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to eat the whole box. So I kind of like would do that just to keep proving to myself that we're in a good spot. We're in a good
yeah.
spot. And yeah, it worked. And yeah, having that free meal every week was just yeah, because that was another thing. I remember my all my previous preps, I would just as soon as the word prep happened, that's it, free meal gone. And that was my choosing, but I didn't
Right.
know I just didn't realize that you could actually prep and keep that in, So between that and not weighing my lettuce.
It's so funny that that was like the game changer. Like, you mean I don't have to weigh my vegetables? But it makes sense because, like, now that I know you better, I understand that you came from a very all or nothing mindset, which a
Yes.
lot of people do. Like, I think the sport really attracts that type of mentality. And one of the things that we talk about really regularly is that all in is better than all or nothing. Like, perfectionism is not a thing as a
Mm-hmm.
human in anything that we do ever. It's just
Exactly.
not. And if that's the standard, then we're kind of setting ourselves up for failure with this idea that if you're not perfect, you're failing,
Right. Yep.
right? And then it leads to like this idea of, well, I failed, and now you're frustrated because you failed, and then it just like spirals.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it because I know I've been there personally, and I've worked with a lot of people that experience the same thing, and there is a lot of growth in the mindset when you come to realize that, like you said, like it's okay to have a bite of something. Absolutely. It only becomes a problem when you're eating the entire box,
Mm-hmm.
doing that every other day, and
Yeah.
once you eat the entire box, then you go for, something else, whatever
Yeah.
else it is. We all
I
have our,
already ruined it. Might as well
yeah,
keep going.
exactly, right? Or if it's like, well, I can't leave this because if I leave this, then I'll eat it tomorrow. So if I just eat it now, then I don't have to worry about it tomorrow.
Yep.
Like those kinds of things.
Yeah, I was in this prep. I was even able, I had like a dark chocolate bar in the fridge several times during this prep. And if like around my cycle time, I like felt I needed a piece, I would, instead of dwelling on it and knowing it was in there, I'd just be like, oh, we can work a square in. We can maybe two if we need to. And I'd have that square or two, and then that was it. Then I was fine. Rather than just be dwelling on it, like, oh, I can't have that. I can't have that. No, you can have it.
Yeah.
You can make things work to, obviously don't go crazy, but yeah, like,
Like the internal vernacular is such a big thing. The connotation that you tell yourself makes
yes.
a really big difference.
Yeah,
And
because I'm the
now
one, don't touch, I have to touch.
yeah, yeah. But now chocolate is something that's literally on your menu daily. It's like you
Yep.
have that as an option, and whether or not you choose that as an option, it's always there, right?
Hmm.
But
Yep.
I think that yeah, it's amazing to see how much you've changed mentally, and I think the majority of that even happened in the past year, like
Yeah.
right before we started this contest prep is the best I've ever seen you mentally, and that carried all the way throughout the prep.
Right.
Where, yeah, and I don't know if it was the turning point was like the injury and having to work through the pain and
Right.
mitigate through the arthritis. Like, I don't know if that was the turning point when you just realized like I can't control everything. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that was a big part of it too. But it was you are now a complete opposite, like 180 from when
Yeah.
we started working together and our first reverse. And even as that kind of progressed into the improvement season, I know we continue to have those struggles on occasion.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, you've nailed it. Like the last year it's just been crazy. In a good way. Like I feel like everything I'm like one of those people like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everything is definitely happening for a reason.
I'm one of those people too, so it's okay.
Right? Okay, cool. And then even like my boyfriend this prep, like he was like, you're like different. You're not cranky, you're not mean, you're just so easy going, go with the flow. You still, let me sleep next to you.
That's
He was
so
telling all my
funny.
coworkers at our a Christmas party, like, this was the best prep she's ever done. I don't know what Sam's doing, but she's got her in a good spot. It was so cute.
That's super sweet. But I mean, you had said like even before that that your coworkers had recognized that it was different for you this time around.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
everything's so cool. I'm so happy.
And that like when people are asking you what you're gonna do post show, you know, like you're gonna eat a steak. I think you ended up eating an apple.
Yeah, it's like all I want is an unweighed apple. I just want an apple that I don't have to measure.
Which is also funny because I mean, even when it comes to fruit measurements, like if we're being honest, nobody's overweight because they eat too much apple, right?
Right.
That's not anybody's problem.
Yeah.
So I mean, I appreciate your consistency and with everything, but it is funny that that's what you went for.
Or when I texted you about the asparagus, I'm like, do I weigh those frozen or cooked? And you're like, don't overthink it. And that immediately brought me back right back down. And I was like, she's right. You're being silly, Adrienne. Why? Silly question.
I don't need to weigh the asparagus. It's okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, that I mean, gosh, that has helped so much. I
I
don't,
mean, I love that that's what turned it around was just like
right?
don't worry about weighing your vegetables.
Yeah. And then the free meal, so like I wasn't hyper fixated the whole prep on that post-show meal. I was like, all I wanted post-show, yeah, was that apple, a piece of steak, or a piece of chicken.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy. So cool. I wouldn't change a thing. It was
I
worth
love
all the
it.
back pain and all the shoulder pain and all the pains.
Well, I'm still very hopeful that we end up finding a resolution for that, but in the meantime, at least we're able to mitigate it pretty well. And like you said,
Yeah.
you focus on what you can do, what you can
Yeah.
control, and we capitalize on that as much as we can,
Yeah.
for
Exactly.
sure. And how about like, do you want to talk about your show? Because that was literally just a week ago today.
I
You're
can't believe it's been a week
still
already.
very fresh and taking a week where, we're not really pushing training or anything, just letting the body recover. But tell us about this most recent show because I think it's the most positive I've ever seen you at a show too.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. It was ever since I sent you that video doing a little bit of posing on the carpet in the back of the convention center, I was like, wow, look at me. Like just still blown away that we built that. And I was, all I wanted was like obviously I wanted to place good, but I really wanted good stage shots. And I was a little upset that I stumbled, but when I watched, the videos back, it felt a lot worse than it looked. Like you
Yeah.
really,
Oh yeah.
if my face doesn't show all my emotion, it would have not been even as my boyfriend's like, why can't you control your facial expressions? I'm like, because I can't. I can't lie about anything, even my face. But yeah, and then the comparison pictures that you put together, I can't stop looking at them. Like I'm like, we did that through everything that's happened in the last 2 years, and I'm like, and that was the outcome. I'm like, this is freaking amazing.
It is
So
amazing.
I'm like, I'm just blown. I'm so excited. Like at first, like I was kind of sad for a deload week, and then I was like, no, Adrian, your body needs it. Like, let's just chill. And so I've just been going and walking, and now I'm just like, I can't wait till next week when we can just casually start picking things up and putting them back down again. But it
We'll have
was
a
back
brand
to the
new
show.
workout. Yeah,
Yeah.
workout.
Yeah. But not to get off topic, but back to the show. Yeah, it was a huge show. There was a lot of bikini girls. The bikini classes were really big, but it was a great experience. I mean, I was a little rusty because it's been, 2 years. But I like when they do the comparisons first. And then because I feel like you get most of that out, but then they didn't do the individual until the night show. So then I feel like I kind of got like rusty and nervous again. And then like you said, I should have just gone slow and they're not going to take a stick and pull me off stage. But once they start announcing the other person's name, oh shit, I gotta hurry up and get off.
Mentally, you're like, am I taking that long?
Right? Yeah.
Yes, I
So I
get it.
kind of stumbled a little coming out of my transition from my back to my front, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it felt. But yeah, I'm so just blown away by the photos and I'm so happy. I'm like, those stage shots are amazing. I'm like, we did that. Those glutes, like you would say in the chicken, whose glutes are those? And I'm looking at the picture. I'm like, damn, whose glutes are those, Adrian? Those are your glutes. Your favorite
Those
glute mother
years we did
herself.
that.
Yeah, so I am so blown away. I can't thank you enough for literally everything.
Well, it like you said, it takes a village, and el- again, a lot of it is you communicating with me well and telling me what works and what doesn't, and us coming up with what does work consistently and how can we,
Yeah.
you know, how can we execute on that every single week? And without you talking to me and being open and as thorough as you are, like it would be harder for me. And I'm ultimately like, I'm the architect. Like, I give you the map, but you are the one that has to execute on everything.
Yeah.
So it's what you did and maybe what we did together, but that's all your work. That's all your effort that was showcased last weekend.
Thank you.
No, it's amazing, and just beyond proud, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited the way that we're headed into this improvement season.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to set up goals for next year, and I just, yeah, I know it's going to be the way that you're going into this mentally is going to be so much different than you've ever experienced before, and that makes it so much more sustainable
Yeah.
when the goal isn't to get on stage in, 12
Yeah.
weeks, 10 weeks, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Lots of ideas.
Yes. And I can't wait to talk about them, but we don't have to say what those are just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just make everyone follow along and we'll
Right.
catch up with them at a later date.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this one was actually a little bit quicker, but you touched on everything very thoroughly and quickly, which you are very good at. Is there anything else that you wanted to go over, talk about, or share, just to give us a little bit more history or
Yeah, well, no, I think we pretty much summed it up in a nutshell, so to speak. But
yeah,
I'm pretty boring. Not
that's
much going on in my world, but I like it like that. I just like I get up early, I go to the gym, I go to work, I come home, I go to sleep, I do it again.
Yeah, same.
But yep, it's just I like it.
I guess we'll wrap it up there then. But before you go, tell everyone where they can find you on your socials so they can follow along, and I'll post them in the description as well.
Okay, yeah. I mainly focus on Instagram. I'm not very good at social media, but I like Instagram the most, and my handle is at LILRED, so little red, and then underscore, I think, Bikini Beast. I don't think there's any numbers. I think that's it. Little red underscore Bikini Beast. And
Yep.
then Facebook is just my first and last name. But Facebook is more family and stuff. So I don't know. I have one weird uncle that like hates bodybuilding, and he when I post photos, he like, I don't know. Well, he haven't heard from him yet on this show, so I'm waiting for that. But anyway, so more so on Instagram, but Facebook is there.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for this conversation, telling us all about it, and I always appreciate your time and detail, and I just appreciate you.
Thank you, Sam. Likewise. Thank you for everything. For having me, of course.